Did you ever notice that women tend to be saviors and fixers, and we like to kind of like take care of others, and we very often self-abandon and like spend all of our lives devoted to helping and fixing others, as if we were born to do that, like with such ease and such natural inclination. It was indoctrination. It was indoctrination. Women have been indoctrinated to serve and self-abandon and fix and mother everyone. And most importantly, they were bred and conditioned to serve and mother and fix and save and enable men. Imagine that you were born feeling very unworthy, being told you're very unworthy, being treated like you're very unworthy. But then someone told you this. They would say, you are unworthy, but there's a way for you to earn your worth. Do you want to do it? What would you say? You would probably say, yes, I would do anything. And the next thing this imaginary person would say, which isn't so imaginary end of the day, but the influences would say, if you want to feel worthy, you have to become someone others need. And so off you go, fix, save, and self-abandon yourself as much as you can to make others find you as someone who has worth in their lives because of what you're giving to them. Now, that doesn't mean that you're worthy as a person in your heart, in who you are. No, because I don't really know that. But at least you will feel a little bit closer to being of worth, because this way people will keep you in their lives and they will not abandon you. And this is basically what happened for a lot of us in our childhood, although nobody really appeared to give us these guidelines. They were deducted. We understood them and we saw them through how we were raised, how we were praised, when were we seen, when were we acknowledged, the influences around us, what society told us. And so it was easy for us, being raised without having any sense of our true worth, to go onto a path which was a path of self-destruction, but really painted as our self-actualized path as women, is to become someone noble, someone who gives, someone who always anticipates others' needs, somebody who sacrifices himself, somebody who is nice, who is helpful, who is selfless, someone who is a mother, not only to her kids, but to everyone in this world. We were put onto this path that was like the path of how to become a good woman, right? Which was like the good girl curriculum, right? We all kind of were subjected to it when they were using the becoming less protocol. We had to become less than everything that we were so that we can then compete to the pick-me Olympics. I think by now we probably all know that saying that says, you have to put your own oxygen mask first. But most of us, don't realize that when you put that metaphor into real life, that's pretty much what we should be doing. It's actually one of the most important principles in life. That oxygen mask metaphor is really timeless, because you need to first be able to secure the fact that you're going to breathe and survive before you help others survive. And we have to learn how to honor that. But if you are born a woman anywhere in this world, you've probably gotten a different messaging as to what you should be doing in case of someone else's emergency. And it was definitely not to put your own mask first. No, that would be selfish. And that's probably the worst thing anyone can call a woman, isn't it? So sacrifice. You must sacrifice. Run to the rescue, save them, fix them, give them everything you have. And then when they drain their life out of you, do it all over again. But this time you're going to be resentful, exhausted, and bitter. And you have to somehow hide that too, because you don't want to come off as mean or selfish, or that you're even expecting for return for everything you're doing. Women have been conditioned to be fixers to those who are unwilling or think they should do the work themselves. Women are conditioned to save others because someone raised feeling fundamentally unworthy finds a sense of worth in being recognized as a rescuer, as someone who others need, as someone good. And if you're wondering where all of this is coming from, is obviously, first and foremost, through our childhood conditioning. When we are raised in homes where love felt conditional on what we gave, not who we were, right? And this is a very probable experience for those of you raised in narcissistic and emotionally immature households, right? By parents who made sure you didn't really sit back and enjoy it being a child, but you were actually trying to chase their approval constantly. And the experience of being raised by narcissistic parents really sets the tone for who we end up becoming. And in most cases, when we're women, we have this rescuer syndrome, right? We want to rescue everyone, but really what we want is someone to rescue us from the misery of being ourselves, from being this creature that cannot stop chasing and never really landing to a sense of worth. We want someone to save us because nobody showed up for us. Nobody stopped what was happening. Nobody stepped up for us. So we try to do it for others in the hopes others do it for us. I remember when I was doing rescue work, and for some reason I was really good at matching dogs with their owners, and everybody would say that to me when they adopted their dogs. I was actually sending them abroad, and they were like, "I'm surprised you found the perfect dog for us." I'm like, "I know, and now." And then I thought to myself, I keep finding these dogs, these beautiful homes where they find love and they're just, living their lives. And I'm not doing that for myself. I was like, you know what? My next project is to find myself a good home. I needed to rehome myself. And actually, I did rehome myself. I rehomed myself in a home I could only dreamed of living in. And it's by the beach, and I love it. And I've always dreamt of that. And so when I started focusing on myself, instead of trying to make others happy, because I knew how to make others happy, I started making myself happy. Because I certainly knew how to make myself happy. I was just not putting in the work to do that for me, right? So that's the thing, that we must focus somehow. So we must find that sort of direction back to ourselves, but it's hard to do that when we're raised in homes that don't teach us that. And also it's very hard to do it when we do not know our worth, right? Now, another reason why I believe most women are bred to become fixers and savers, and we kind of like thrive off of that experience of trying to save others, is because of the patriarchal messaging that we received. We were taught that our value lies in serving, in sacrificing, in being good. Women are praised for sacrificing themselves, right? And again, I'm going to bring up a lot of my story in rescue because I think it really matters. For me, it was really eye-opening. And I remember when I first started doing it, I would post the photo of me and the dog being like, "Yeah, we found a home," and everybody in the comments were like, "You're such an angel. You're the best." And I remember feeling so angry reading those comments. I thought to myself, this doesn't give me joy. I was forced to do it because if I don't do it, who else is going to do it, right? That sense of immense responsibility you feel like you have to save someone. And I thought to myself, you're praising me for doing something you would never do because you love yourself more than I love myself, right? That's why you're saying, I'm ruining my life. I'm dedicating so much of my hours. I'm doing so much work for others and for these animals. And the world sort of like praises you for it instead of being like, "What are you doing? Just get a life or take care of yourself as well." I don't know. That praise really bothered me until I stopped posting anything of that because I thought, this isn't something I want to be recognized for. It felt almost like a shameful thing to be recognized for doing. Anyway, another reason why we as women are possibly bred and sort of like driven to become fixers of everyone is how we've been relationally sort of like trained by the women before us, right? Mothers, grandmothers, they all overgave. They all self-abandoned. I don't know. I can't think of women in my lineage that I know that weren't always just so self-abandoning, right? And when you're a kid, you're like, "Oh, it's just my grandma. She she just loves to take care of us, but she would just be doing things all the time, not resting, always trying to serve and finding so much pleasure in just serving, which you would perceive it as, oh, it's because she loves me. But then looking at it now through the lens that I'm looking at things, that woman could only find, worth and be identified or recognized through service and cooking and cleaning and doing things, which, then became her love language. And the only way to show love and the only way to be recognized as a good mother or a good grandmother was how well she was serving everybody. So we just combined it together, being cared for in a way where the other person is literally just devoted to our care. Feels like a thing that resembles love, but it's not really. Like, we may feel loved in that moment, but the person giving us that love is feeling drained. And again, they're being praised for it. So, now another reason why we're so prone to becoming fixers and savers is that we have internalized unworthiness, right? Again, I find this to be like an addiction to pursuing our worth. This is what it is. This is trying to save and fix others is an ancient pursuit to find somehow access to the fact that you're worthy. Because if you have managed to do something for someone and that someone recognizes it, you're like, see, I'm worth something. I'm worth something to this person, right? Because I've done all this. So I've earned my worth. And that really gets, the foundation of all of that happens when we're kids, again, because we're not taught our worth. And it matters so much that we know our worth, because so many of the things that we will be doing in our lives are influenced by the fact that we do not know our worth. We are really not, we're really not in touch with how worthy we are. We don't, and then as a consequence, we don't respect ourselves, we self-abandon, we prioritize others, we center others. And generally, whatever we do is for the sake of chasing that worth, which then ultimately brings us to a place where we're acting like we have none, right? So it's like the chase for worth is just ridiculous, because the more we chase worth and the things that we do to chase our worth become things that actually prove to us and everyone around us that we don't think we have any worth, right? Because if we thought ourselves to be worthy enough, we wouldn't self-abandon. We would have boundaries. We would take care of ourselves. We would prioritize ourselves. We would put our own oxygen mask first, right? Prior to trying to save everybody. And now to put all this in a nice little bow with, patriarchal messaging, what we saw in our grandmothers, the internalized unworthiness, which all sort of like really happened to us through our childhood, and especially through being conditioned by what I call as our first oppressors, which are our narcissistic parents, is all the entire culture that we're raised in gives the title of a good woman to a woman who self-sacrifices. And that's just something that we tend to do. And when we see a woman that doesn't, the immediate thought of this is that she's selfish, but it has a negative connotation, because we're like, oh, she's so selfish. And we see it now, right, with many women, me included, that do not want to have kids. And the first sort of like thing we would say is like, I kind of want to enjoy my life. I want to prioritize myself. I want to dedicate myself to other things that I want to be doing. And the first sort of like thing that people say is like, why are you so selfish? Like, it's almost like they're saying, why do you think that your life is yours to live it the way you want to live it? And why don't you also want to sacrifice your life to become a mother like everybody else that is acknowledged as somebody good because they followed that script? And don't get me wrong, this is a personal choice for every woman, but it's not a choice that comes. But it's not a choice really that we make with a clean sort of mind, because we've been conditioned to follow that path as our path of self-fulfillment and self-actualization, being motherhood, right? And it's a personal decision, but at the same time, it's a decision we're being pushed on to since a very young age. Almost like somebody said that it's almost like a pyramid scheme. Like everybody's kind of like trying to get you into this place, and you kind of find yourself there. But nonetheless, being a mother, and everybody who is a mother, no matter how much you love your kids, you'll know that there's a very high probability that who you are now and who you were before being a mother cannot necessarily be experienced in the same capacity, because you by default prioritize those children because you have to. You're their mother, and that's essentially what motherhood is. And also, I think motherhood is a trap to push you into codependency, because it's codependency on steroids. That's what motherhood is, right? Like you are breeding children that truly need you, and that can become the meaning of your life, so much so that you lose yourself through that, and you don't find pleasure through doing anything else. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But as time goes and years go by, and these children will find themselves in their own journeys, in their own lives, you will be left behind with no other sort of something to hold on to and some meaning in your life, right? Because you've immersed yourself so much into motherhood where you lost yourself and all that. But that's not really the issue here, right? But the root of all of this is that we are, as women, bred to be codependent. And even through motherhood, I don't know what motherhood would have looked like if we weren't so indoctrinated into codependency, or what motherhood used to look like when we weren't under this patriarchal sort of like oppression, because maybe it wasn't so that we had the kids and we were devoted to them for 18 years kind of thing and doing nothing besides raising them, but maybe it was different. Maybe there was more community, maybe there was more shared responsibilities, maybe women were allowed to also exist some in some different capacity. I don't know, I can't really envision it, but codependency is basically the main conditioning of every woman raised in a patriarchal society, which is basically the good girl conditioning, right? That turns then into codependency. That's how it's transformed in adulthood. We're not supposed to upset anyone. We're always supposed to anticipate people's needs. We have to sacrifice ourselves, be nice, be selfless, and all of that. Anyway, so the antidote to this extensive brainwashing that we went through that makes us martyrs in our own lives isn't to continue to save others until we win some sort of medal for the most selfless woman alive. If you were ever to win that, know that it's not an honor. And I say that in most of my videos, which you by now know. If being selfless was a virtue, men who would have claimed it as their natural expression, just like they did with being protectors, and being, providers and all of that. So if they're not claiming it, it means it's not good. It's not good for us. Just like if being married would benefit us, men wouldn't let us do it. Anyway, they would never give you such awards, and what they would only give you is more demands. They would just step all over you. So don't keep doing this. Don't keep sacrificing, suffocating, and trying to save others. The antidote is to find your way back to your worth. And how do we do that? How do we find our way back to our worth? I mean, first of all, we have to start acting like we have worth. Because if we don't act like we have worth, there's no way we're going to access the information that we have it, right? But how do we actually do that? We set boundaries and we don't apologize. We say no when we think we want to say no. We allow others to just sit in their own discomfort rather than trying to fix and caretake them and sort of like manage their emotions. We are noticing our urge to rescue as really avoiding our own pain. So stop avoiding your own pain and doing the work and tend to your needs. And basically, you have to go on a journey where you do the very thing that you were taught not to do, and that is to prioritize yourself. And when you do that, when you go on this journey, know that you will probably lose a lot of the people that were there expecting you to continue to be selfless, expecting you to continue to give them without you saying no. And they will say things like, you've changed, but like an insult. But please take it as a compliment. If somebody in your closest environment who used to be one of the people who used you the most, who you felt used from, who you always feel like you have to do more things for them, turns around and says, you've changed. Take it as a sign that you're doing great, because they're noticing that they're not getting what they used to be getting for the little effort that they were putting in their relationship with you. Just to conclude this video, we are born into environments that do not teach us that we're worthy, right? And the reason for that is not just because our parents were the way they were. It just goes much deeper than our parents, right? It's societal, and it's deep, and it has to do with patriarchy, and it has to do with generational trauma. It has to do with a lot more things than just the parents that raised us. But the thing is that we come out in the world, and being raised the way that we have is somewhat functional for said world, because it sets us up to live a life of self-abandoning and prioritizing others. And most of the time, those others are men. In this man-centered world, women that are basically bred to be codependent are useful to this system, right? We come in, we take on someone's son, and we turn them into our own son, and we marry them, and then we have kids with them, and then we raise everybody, and then we're drained and miserable, and then life ends. That's it. The end. Our happy forever after ends up being a life of resentment. And it's a life where we are never really truly in touch with how powerful we are. Even though we may be the ones doing all the work and holding everything together, we can't really put one and one together and know that we are able to do so much more than we think we're capable of. And so that this small life that we've been trapped in isn't all there is. My hope is through my videos to awaken in you the knowing that the way you feel about yourself is not the genuine reflection of who you are, but it's a genuine and honest reflection of what you went through. And what you went through is systemic, is something most women went through. And it's not just yours as a woman. It's collectively what we've all been going through. And if women want to break free from holding back from their own power, for being trapped in lives and being forced and trapped in lives that they don't want, we have to do our healing work. We have to heal. And for us to heal, we have to focus on ourselves. And for us to focus on ourselves, it means we have to start neglecting those others we took on as our projects. We took them on as our children. I'm not talking about your literal children that are your responsibility. I'm talking about partners, friends, parents, everybody that you're mothering, that you're fixing, that you're trying to save all the time, that they're not your responsibility. And if you're going to save and fix someone, make it be yourself. Because the moment you're trying to get someone to be saved and to fix them, and you're enabling whatever they're doing, the messaging is this: you are worthy to me, so I'm trying to save you and I'm trying to fix you, and your approval matters so much to me that I will continue to do so until you finally tell me that, and until you finally change for me. Whatever, it's a lot deeper than that. But anyway, to keep it there, you treat them as worthy and you treat yourself as unworthy. And it is unfair that you were born in this life to live this life devoted to others whilst completely neglecting yourself and feeling unworthy and unappreciated, not only by others, but by yourself. So take time out of this lifetime and dedicate some time to do some inner work. I have a lot of videos about this. I have a lot of videos about how to do it, where you essentially stop mothering everybody else and you start mothering yourself. For the sole purpose of getting to know yourself, realizing your worth, and becoming to yourself the mother that you needed and never got. If you're going to be taking on a project, take that project of healing yourself, of saving yourself from being stuck in the past, waiting to be loved, waiting to be recognized, waiting to be acknowledged. Start there. Stop trying to save others and save yourself instead. I'll see you soon.